Hello and welcome to the Unit 3 of the Week 5 of the online result based monitoring and evaluation course delivered by Cloneshouse, Nigeria. Again, my name is Oludotun Babayemi. I've been your facilitator since week 1, and it seems this might be the last unit of this online result based monitoring and evaluation, and I hope this has actually been useful. Uh, this last part actually is one of those units that I love so much, and I think yes, I mean might be useful for especially for those of you that are keen in understanding uh, the evaluation profession and also perhaps wanting to start out as a consultant. Again, um, I have about 12 years experience working in this field, and I mean developing monitoring and evaluation systems for country governments and also international NGOs as well. I found myself as an enumerator working in the field for a very long time, also being an advisor on some projects and also reviewing proposals of evaluation projects and also submissions from NGOs as well. I've been a monitoring, evaluation, and learning specialist. Um, yes, which is currently my role. It seems I does more of the learning approach now than um, just the flat evaluator that you see conducting ex post evaluation around countries. Um, so, I mean, this is the part we talk about monitoring and evaluation, consulting as a profession. And in this unit, we hope that you will get to understand the history of evaluation as a profession and also explain to others how the ecosystem in M&E works. You should be able to understand the different levels of consulting work in the profession and also explore learning and collaboration opportunities within the space. I mean, it's a wide space, it's a big space, a space that is covered of the international development space. So, which actually is almost 100 billion, over $100 billion market, right? We will get to that as we go um, in this unit. So I will be introducing you to what development cooperation is and perhaps how they started. Just in a brief, won't go deep into the history of international development um, since since the colonial era, then moving to the post-World War and also during the Cold War. I won't be discussing that, but I will be because this is not an international development course or class. So I will just be taking perhaps from the millennium down to where we are, what has happened, and how this has contributed to the field of evaluation and has made evaluation very important. Then I will discuss the ecosystem of those that are actually conducting monitoring and evaluation. Um, I and I'm sure you would have been noticing that most times I want to mention the two, but evaluation seems prominent than monitoring, and that is how actually it is. Evaluation is, yeah, I mean, it has been in existence since, but I mean, so much focus is now currently on it, especially the expos trying to understand the impact. Monitoring will only do activities and think about, oh, have we done activity A, have we done B? So majorly it's like a traditional based kind of a thing, monitoring thing. So and compliance. Some people put in compliance into this, but most importantly, what this does, I mean, evaluation, is to make us understand what has worked, if there's been a change, if there's been an impact, and I think that's why this has become so prominent in the field. Then I would move to, yes, different um, capacity building mechanisms in monitoring and evaluation, or in the field of evaluation. Um, then I would let us understand some ethical considerations in the profession. Yes, we follow ethics. There are ethics in the profession. Then I would finish up by discussing what consulting actually necessarily means in this context of evaluation. So I'll jump into a brief history of why evaluation has become important. I would not, so this course would not allow us to deal with the real history of evaluation or how it started. But I think it's important to just state that, yes, I mean, monitoring has been in existence since the prehistory times, perhaps in the 3000 BC, when Egypt was a world power. So then, I mean, think about the slaves that were working in Egypt of then. The Egyptians normally will count the number of grains that is being put inside the barns, inside the silos by slaves. It will count the number of grains. I mean, counting all those, that monitoring it, I mean, that's part of monitoring, right? Making sure, yes, the target is being met by each of the slaves. So I mean, in the prehistory times, those were recorded, those were things that were recorded. But you will quickly jump into um, perhaps the 17th century, back in US, where yes, I mean, during the technology era, when um, evaluation started becoming something of note, in which the Americans wanted to actually understand how science is impacting the world, and also starting with moving to education, and also in the World War Two era. So I mean, you could think about that up till, yes, I mean, you had the GPRA Act, then it moved to Europe. Europe started its evaluation. I mean, when the states become when countries became so prominent in development, and then it shifted uh, to Asia, then to Africa, just at the end of the 90s. So I mean, that's a history, right? But we will start this from the Millennium Development Goals, which in 2000 countries came together, and there were um, um, yeah, 18 targets were supposed to be met with the MDGs, and it has 48 indicators. I mean, that was something that started development by people, right? And not by states, and not by uh, because then, I mean, pre 2000, in the late 90s, was people advocating for development to be done by people themselves, and I mean, this made it like, yes, it became important that we need to have a goal, and in 2008 goals were set, and there were 18 targets and 48 indicators to measure progress, which we're talking about um, the eradication of poverty, achieving universal primary education, promoting gender equality, reducing child mortality, and I mean, ensuring environmental sustainability. I mean, these were things that were important for socio-economic development in several developing countries, and countries came up and say, yes, we need to have these goals set up, so that we can focus on these goals, and make sure that um, all help in terms of aid that goes into developing countries will actually focus on those aid goals. Um, this led to conversations in 2002 in Monterey in the US, where countries came together and started thinking about how to actually finance the goals that we have already set. So the Monterey Consensus said actually set up a framework for financing for development. Like, oh, how do we then provide funds or funding for these developing countries for us to meet these goals? And not only that, like also how do we harmonize these funds and make sure that yes it's working in those countries. So this led to 2003 where I mean after looking at what has happened in 2000 till 2002, I think sometimes in March was the high level forum on aid effectiveness, the first one um, held in Rome, actually looked at what has happened in the last years since the MDGs came into being. Um, and there and then countries agreed on, yes, some kind of harmonization and alignment of funds. Because, I mean, the goals which were actually focused on or being looked at like for developing countries. Developing countries would not necessarily have that much of funds, and I mean you can give an example even currently now. Just give an example of Nigeria that has a budget of a federal government budget of about maybe 9 trillion or thereabout. But I mean, out of that, um, a larger percentage of that will still is not available as revenue for the country, right? It still needs to borrow some money in order to make such provision to get to 100%, to be able to get the budget implemented. And that's how it has been since this times. And I mean, that's Nigeria, anyways. But you can think about other countries, especially a whole lot of them in Africa, that would not be able to fund their budget, right? Because of low revenue, low government revenue, which has been dwindling since time. So they need some funds, some help in terms of funding, right, from developed countries. So this was said in Rome, like some set of principles were agreed upon, but the main thing came in 2005 in Paris with a declaration on aid effectiveness, where um, key principles, about six of them, yeah, were actually agreed upon. So, and one is that yes, countries need to take ownership of development. So, and I mean this complemented the budget support strategy of the World Bank. Um, so countries, so funding that might come or that should come will need to align also. So that's the alignment. So one is that country must take ownership of development in their own country. So I mean, country should think about, should do the needs assessment. So let's put it in the context of evaluation now, that countries must do their own needs assessment and must be able to put on the table like, oh, this is where our current needs are. So which is in form of now developing a national development plan. So maybe not to ask me at this moment if these countries have a national development plan. So that leads to the alignment part of things. Like, so every aid that is coming into a developing country must align with the national development plan of the country. And think about, let's so this brings us to week 4 where we were talking about coherence, right? So if that project is actually coherent with the needs of the people or a policy document, so if there's an alignment so this talks about alignment, then also harmonization. This is in part or in terms of the developing countries or the countries that are providing aid or support to a developing country. So we talk harmonization means harmonization of all the projects, programs, the technical support, the loans, the grants that are provided um, for developing countries. Then a key one is managing for results. So when you talk about managing, so it's not just about providing the funds or setting up a project or putting up a strategy, but it is that we must be able to evaluate each of those projects. And I mean, this gave justification for evaluation, and you can think about it, yes, as a game changer for the profession, and also accountability. This led to conversations around, yes, accountability in terms of the donor agencies, the bilateral institutions, the multilateral institutions being accountable to country governments of developing countries, and also for bilateral institutions being accountable to their countries, letting recipient countries know how much is being given to them, and also um, and also them making sure they're able to tell their citizens how much they have provided for developing countries. But I mean, all this still has its own issues and several arguments about aid effectiveness and all that. But this course is not about that. So this is just so, and there then was the high level forum, and I mean, so it's not to say that there weren't some other high level forum. I think the one in Busan was the fourth one, and here was the last high level forum, which was looking at how this high level forums always look at the effectiveness of it, right? And it is in here there was an agreement. If you look back at the one in Rome, probably it was just by uh, development partners, multilateral and bilateral agencies. But in here, you now have other foundations. You have people from South being involved. You have the BRICS CSO, civil society organizations, and also private funders as well were involved. And they set up a new a framework to complement what was agreed on the Paris Declaration. So, I mean, this allowed for more partners to be involved in aid, right? Um, and that was and this now brought about, it was here they now agreed on the Global Partnership for Effective Development Cooperation, which then had principles. So I mean, the principles in here just turned into four, which is, yes, ownership of development priorities by developing countries. Um, so I mean, which still, I mean, this takes the ownership kind of principle from the Paris Declaration. Like, countries must own their own type of development. Again, another justification for the field of evaluation or the field of monitoring and evaluation was that, yes, there must be a focus on results, right? There must be impact. If we say we are going to eradicate poverty, if we say that we will be we should reduce child mortality. And I mean, it's also good to understand that this was when MDGs were in place, and also that there must be universal primary health care. So, I mean, focusing on results gave that justification. And think about inclusive development partnerships, which means that, yes, there must be trust amongst all those partners that came together at the high level forum in Busan. Um, so, which means that, yes, we need to all those actors need to complement those that are in the ecosystem, needs to complement one another in providing aid, in providing technical assistance, whichever way you want to think about it. Also, that mutual accountability is very, very key and important, especially to citizens within constituents, within the shells, the stakeholders. So, I mean, this gave justification for transparency and accountability movement in terms of aid effectiveness, either to developing countries that are actually recipients, or to the developed countries as well. So, I mean, these four key principles um, were something that was also agreed on, and now became part of what we call the GPE now uses, the Global Partnership for Effective uh, Development as well. And I mean, during those times, then. Well, I mean, the conversation about the Sustainable Development Goals started around 2009 in Rio de Janeiro. And I mean, but it was not until 2015 that a 2013 agenda for sustainable development was agreed upon. And that's what we refer to as the SDGs currently, which, I mean, has some few years to lapse 2030, um, with 17 goals now being agreed, compared to the 8 goals that were agreed on in 2000, right? So now from those 8 goals were developed actually 17 goals, and currently there's 169 targets, and I think between 247 or 300 indicators. The indicators keep changing, and I mean, for you to be hearing targets, and I mean, targets is so, because we have been in this course, it's important that we know that targets are like how it's something you relate to your outcome or impact. Uh, then you have indicators for them, right? So this means like maybe for each target you have 2 to 3 indicators, right? And that's how the sustainable development goals were coined, and I mean, you still have, yes, end to poverty reduction, I mean, end to poverty, um, universal primary health care. You still have, I know, access to primary health care, universal primary education, and a whole lot on that. We were not discussing SDGs at this moment. So, but I mean, there were 17 goals that were focused on socio-economic development, and also, I mean, part of the sustainable development goals was also economic development, right, of developing countries. So, I mean, but that same question still comes in: who finances all that? How would low income countries, middle income countries, how would they have more funds to provide um, all those infrastructures? For example, classrooms, schools, health facilities, um, road networks. How would they empower the small medium enterprise, just like you have done that case in the so where would those funds come in? Country governments might not necessarily be able to mobilize totally for that, but so they would need to rely on multilateral institutions that were created pre 1945, and also bilateral institutions that became prominent perhaps maybe in the 1960s or thereabout. So, I mean, that led to this ecosystem. So, but I mean, it is important to know that this is not a finance for development class, but we're just trying to look at what brought about evaluation, right? So, I mean, it means that for every $1 that is spent, there must be a justification in terms of impact, right? So, I mean, once resources are mobilized, then evaluation needs to happen, monitoring needs to happen, and um, so there's these actors that are actually involved, and there's one. So, I mean, all these actors, especially those in the bilateral institutions, um, which are country governments that provides um, grants, loans, technical support directly to developing countries, right? So this set of bilateral organizations, I mean, in 2019, The OECD just released that about 152 billion US dollars was put into developing countries. Yeah, I mean, it's important to know that a larger part of these developing countries we're talking about are actually in Africa. And so, I mean, if you're Nigerian, Nigeria is also one of the countries, if not one of the top four, that receives this overseas development assistance from developed countries. It's important um, to actually note that. So, the bilateral institutions are responsible for overseas development assistance, likewise the multilateral institutions. So you think, so I mean, so it's important to note that yes, multilateral institutions uh, are institutions from over five countries that provides technical assistance, equity grants, budget support to developing countries. So you could have even 10 of them, and you have several examples like the World Bank. So you have some financial institutions and also UN agencies that are multilateral, that are referred to as multilateral institutions. So think about the European Union. Um, um, think about the World Bank, the International Monitoring Fund. Um, so I mean, these are multilateral institutions, right? But you think about the bilateral institutions. In terms of yes, the Japanese International Cooperation Agency, the German Development Corporation, the United States International, the United States Agency for International Development. So I mean, you have all these people, and also you have state here means country government, right? Because they are also part of the ecosystem. They also do development on their own side. They also are supposed to be conducting evaluation, but I mean, it's just few of them. So this circle actually shows you how huge and big multilateral institutions contribute to evaluation, and you have bilateral institutions there. Actually, so country governments of developed countries own bilateral institutions, so that's why you're saying this. But then you have some foundations recently, I mean, that are also involved in evaluating the projects, the funds they give to NGOs for to implement. And in the ecosystem, there's voluntary organizations for professional evaluation called VOPs, um, which consist of academics, think of consultants, evaluation consultants as well, private individuals, NGOs, um, that actually promotes the field of evaluation. So think about multilateral institutions, bilateral institutions, and the states, they're all involved in this. And I think in the um, so in we already have in the classroom some examples of um, the voluntary, so the VOPs, right? Um, voluntary professional evaluators. So there's a long list that you can actually access in here, where you see subnational VOPs, you see international networks, and I mean all these are in the classrooms. There, these are ecosystems that are important for you to be a member of, to join as well. If you're thinking of yes, I mean becoming um, an evaluator. So also the International Organization for Cooperation in Evaluation. I mean, this is a coordinating body also um, for evaluation all around the world as well, especially for VOPs, for the Voluntary Organization for Professional Evaluation. So you can check that out. Um, so also it's important. Um, And I mean, you have also these people that are implementers of evaluation, right? They are consultants and and what they do is conduct evaluations, and at times these consultants are also part of, yeah, I mean, in fact, most times they're part of the voluntary organization for professional evaluations. Um, so um, that's how the ecosystem looks like. But like we said, a major chunk of it is being done by the multilateral institutions. And in a bit, I'm going to show us what this actually looks like in terms of, yes, procuring as a consultant. So the relationship between these people and these people and these people, um, we will see in a bit what that looks like. So talking about capacity building, right? Um, because capacity building is a key part of of the evaluation profession. So these are organizations that have actually been doing short-term courses on evaluation. Yes, they conduct short-term and long-term courses on evaluation. So you think about um, the Clear Initiative, then you have Eval Partners, then you have the International Development Evaluation Association. The African Development Bank actually has the Independent Development Evaluation Group. Then I call this the Olympics of Evaluation course, right? The International Program for Development Evaluation Training, IPDET. Um, so this is the World Bank and some other partners that are actually facilitating this course that could take like 1 week to 3 weeks. So you can also check them out as well. Then the USAID has a learning lab as well, which uses um, to propagate or build capacity of some of its implementers in terms of monitoring and evaluation. Also, I mean, that those are short courses, right? What we have also done is to provide um, so institutions uh, that are into evaluation all around the world, right? Like especially in terms of postgraduate, and that's where you actually get it from. So this is actually from the classroom, right? So there's a document in the classroom that shows you um, name of universities, masters and doctorates, whichever one you want to think about. Um, so, I mean, it's important to because the field actually is a field for learning and unlearning. So, and you can actually get that from the four walls of some of these institutions all around the world. Um, so, I mean, if you're in the class, so this document is actually in the classroom. You can have access to that. You can find education programs, and I mean, in terms of thinking about, which is very important, which is what we advise. I mean, uh, coming to take a class at Cloneshouse, Nigeria, or be part of it only doesn't make you an evaluation expert. And I'll be talking much more about that when we go deep into, yes, the journey of consulting. It takes a whole lot of years of learning, of doing, going, being on the field, learning and relearning and unlearning. So you need to think about the education program, and I mean, not much people have masters in evaluation like we do, right? Most people are from the social sector, the humanities. So you think that, oh, I have a degree already, so what should I do? I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe you want to consider some of these programs, which is a good thing actually for you to think about where to get a master's or where to get a doctorate. Or yes, some schools also offer some postgraduate degree as well in all this. But I mean, it's important to have the educational background as well, and also merge it with the field experience in terms of evaluation. So, yes, the capacity building, the short term courses, and also in terms of the education. Um, Capacity is very, very important, especially at the postgraduate uh, level. So, um, don't forget, if you have comments, questions, please put it in the comment box of the classroom. I'm very sure those comments will be useful for other people. So it's important, and we'll be happy to respond. So, what about the ethics of the profession? Um, so I mean, what we've tried dividing the ethics into three, which is quite important. This is generic for every country, but it's important to state that if you're in Africa, so there's the African Evaluation um, Association, which is also VOPS, right? Which is also a member of VOPS, which has um, a guideline in terms of the ethics also, and there's actually a new draft for the guidelines for being an evaluator. Um, what we used to know of is an old guideline. I hope this can open, but I mean, it's already in the classroom. You see a guideline, and also there's the old guideline. Yes, I mean, this is the one that I used to know before. So it's also a guideline on the ethics practice of evaluation as well. But there's a new one, a draft in 2020, which you can also take a look at as well, which guides every African that is an evaluator. But we'll discuss generally, like honesty is very important in, yes, I mean, in the data you want to collect and how you collect it. You're supposed to be honest. Then also being careful, thinking about security, insecurity, and in what you do in keeping the data sets that you collect on the field, and also being careful in relating with stakeholders, and also making sure that, yes, you respect, um, yeah, which respect will still come anyways. And also competency is very key, and that's why it's important to also improve on your education competency by, yes, taking a master's, taking a PhD in an evaluation related field, or in evaluation itself, and also taking those short courses. I mean, this happens. Some of this happens every year, right? Um, so it's important, and that's what brings that's what uh, makes you competent in the field. Also, conferences by the International Development Evaluation Association, and also being a member of some of these voluntary professional evaluators is also important for you to build your competency. Because, yes, I mean, it's there. You can then build your competency, because this field, things changes every now and then, and you need to get ahead of things, right? So it's important. Um, then integrity. I mean, this is very key. I mean, if you will be working with a whole lot of partners, um, you want to be able to allow people to know that this is what you're meant for, and you are just the same um at every time people come back to you. So just like being relevant, right? Like, just like a data um that is really just like a data that is reliable. So like reliability. So you just need to be consistent in terms of what people know you for, upholding the truth all the time. Yes, I mean, we say we speak truth to power, right? To decision makers. So I mean, that integrity needs to be there. Objectivity is is very, very important and paramount. We always and always we are objective um, in results that we come about or bring up from our evaluation. In discussing with stakeholders, we are always objective. And I mean, you need to take a look at yourself and say, oh, is it true? Is all this true to you? And that's one of the ethics, and these are all the ethics that falls under that. Then um, is it fair enough to maintain confidentiality? Yes, of course. I mean, um, when you have put, and I mean, this is where I think in week two, when we did the data collection processes in developing questionnaires, where you have said yes, you will keep comments confidential and you won't mention what stakeholders are saying, but you would only triangulate all, and your inferences will be made based on that and not on each person. So I mean, you need to keep the confidentiality of your respondents. Also, human subjects protection is very, very important. Um, Always maintain legality, and I mean, it means respecting the laws of countries or communities where you go as well. It's very important. Also, I mean, we do not need to discriminate. Openness is very key in everything that we do. Yes, you want to be open as much as possible. Then respect for our colleagues. It's very, very important. Respect for colleagues, respect for beneficiaries, respect for stakeholders, implementers of projects, and it is with this your work goes on smoothly, right? Um, Respect for the communities that you work in. Um, Especially if you're working in a marginalized community, it is important to respect them, respect their values, their traditions, their culture. This is very important, man. I mean, there's some places in the north a male cannot interview a female, right? You need to respect that. It's very important. Also, you know that in some places on Fridays they will be the time to go to mosque. You need to respect that because that's what their belief is, and it is with this you can actually establish trust as well. Respect for intellectual property, very, very important and key. Um, yes, I mean, you need to think about using other people's products and also referencing them is quite important. You need to have reference for every uh, intellectual property you've used, because I mean the profession is full of people that are creative, and you don't want to be using people's creatives anyhow. Yes, I mean we do good all the time, and this is a wise thing to do actually. Um, then responsible mentoring, just like Cloneshouse Nigeria is doing. I mean, with some of our courses, um, with a 1 year mentorship, especially for the in-house training. So I mean, which is a good thing, and also a way some of our consultants also use in training young evaluators. Responsible publication. Yes, I mean, we publish books and documents, just like you have had in this class as well. So, I mean, these are the general basic ethics that every other VOPs that you might know might have followed. And I think it's also important to state here that um, so if you're Nigerian, there is also the Nigeria evaluators. Let me see if I can nigeriaevaluators.org. Um, you can also be a member of that voluntary organization for professional evaluators as well. Um, might be a good place for you to. So you can also join and become a member as well. Like we said, we have over 100 VOPs in this database that is in the classroom. You can check it out so that, from any part of the world that you are part of this class, you can think about joining the VOPs um, of of that organization or for being a member of VOPs could be important. So I mean um, so this is the Nigeria Association of Evaluators, which you can also be a member of as well. Um, yeah, we've discussed the ethics and think about who are the consultants. Yes, um, so the consultants actually work with uh, in cooperation with bilateral agencies, multilateral agencies. So now you can see that bilateral agencies, because actually we found that yes, they work more with these people through these multilateral agencies and also states as well. Um, so, like I said earlier on, consultants are also part of this network, VOPs, and also foundations. Consultants also work with some foundations as well. Oh, okay. So, what exactly do they do? So, direct. So you can have international consult. So so this is the ecosystem of the consulting um, evaluation consulting, right? So you have international consultants um, that are based in developed countries. Then you have the national consulting firms. So you have the international consulting firm that are uh, directly cooperating with the multilateral, bilateral, foundation, government agencies, right? So they procure services, and those services are extended to local partners, national partners. Actually, I do not call them local partners. So, but um, so they work with local national partners that also cooperate with they cooperate with these people, and in country bilateral institutions. So in your country you would have offices of bilateral institutions, so they can easily cooperate with them as well. So all and this national consulting firm now hire enumerators or other service providers as well. So there's this cooperation within these three people in every service procurement, in every evaluation, and not to say that this is the only way things flow. It can actually just be a direct cooperation with a multilateral, bilateral from this national consulting firm, but it is quite rare for you to see that. Most times, it's an international consulting firm working with securing that cooperation from a bilateral institution or a multilateral institution. Then he looks for national partners, which is now very important that to work with. Through there, then the national consulting or partner now hire enumerators to go and work on the field to collect data and all that. So, that's the relationship between these actors. So, you now have about three actors that are involved in evaluation consulting, right? Um, so um, it's important to. So we get this question all the time, like, oh, who and who is supposed to get into evaluation? How can I get into the evaluation profession? What do I need to have before I get a contract, or before this international consulting firm can reach out to this firm, or before this international consulting partner can reach out to. So, I mean, these 4 points are key. Like, yes, your years of experience in conducting systemic assessment is very important, and that is why we see, yeah, a whole lot of researchers in this space, right? Academics, as such, that might have done several assessments and all that. Yes, they then years of experience working with relevant stakeholders. And when I mean stakeholders, they are this set of people, right? Either you've worked in an NGO before, you've worked in a multilateral agency, a bilateral agency, or perhaps a public institution as well. So you have such people that are so they are. It's easier for them to get into the field of evaluation or to be recruited, right? Also, I mean, having bachelor's, master's, or PhD in humanities, social sciences, and international development is very important. I mean, if you have a background in international development, then evaluation, thinking about evaluation might be very easy. Yes, I can say that. It's very important. Um, so maybe, I mean, um, I do advise some people, especially, I mean, if you've just finished your bachelor's, or you can take a postgraduate diploma, or a master's in international development. Yeah, I mean, for you to understand um, how countries develop, or for you to understand the perspective of countries becoming developed in terms of history, sociology, history, and economics. So I mean that's very important. Um, Also, yes, I mean it's important that you have essential skills in project or program management before you say you want to um, learn or go into evaluation as a profession. Because I mean most of the projects we or programs, so I mean we evaluate projects or programs, so it's important for you to be able to have this background before you get into evaluation. So and that's why it's important that yes, maybe you might have worked in an NGO before, so for you to understand programs management, or maybe a bilateral agency, or any of this um, in the ecosystem. So these are very important things you need to take cognizance of. And I'm now going into the real consulting thing. Um, One other thing we get is about budgeting for evaluation, especially when there is a request for proposal to conduct evaluation. Um, yeah, I mean, these are key things. So this is not a budgeting class, I mean, or course. If you want to learn about how to budget, then you might need to think about registering to join bossprep.com to register. I mean, that's a product of Cloneshouse Nigeria. So you might want to register for any of the online course here. If you want to learn how to write proposals or how to write budgets, um, yes, so this is the course you might need to take. It's a product of Cloneshouse Nigeria, and I mean we developed that when we found out that yes, uh, most of the people that work with us or want to work with us do not have skill in project or program management. So it become imperative that yes, we create a channel for them to learn. And I mean this. So at bossprep.com, you should be able to learn that. Comes in online class and also in-house class as well. Um, so I mean, these are some of the things that are important: daily fee for consultants, benefits and allowance, travels, per diem, data analysis, equipment that you need, maybe softwares and all, then also some funds for communication. What we've done is actually provide two different kinds of budget, right? sample evaluation budgets. Um, yep. So this is one, and then this kind of budgets. So we've done two, right? So you can think about this as the way we write put together budgets for evaluation, which is very important, right? So think about this: consultant fees, travels, so money for travels, per diems, hotel fees, then data collection fee. Note that this does not have enumerators. This template does not have enumerators. So if it's a project that would recruit enumerators, then you need to put funds for daily fee for enumerators um, as well in here. So that's an example. Then um, we, and I mean, that's an example of a budget that can be developed when you're a national consulting firm and you're consulting for an in-country bilateral agency uh, or an in-country foundation, right? So, but what if you are an international consulting firm that is um, trying to procure evaluation service for a multilateral or bilateral agency? Yeah, so I mean, we also have that template here. Is it here? Yes. I mean, this is an example from. Oops. Let's see if it opens. Okay, so I mean, there's a there's an example there as well that you can take a look at. Let's see if it will open. Um, yeah, so you have something like this. Now having like six different experts or so to make payment to. So let me just quickly. So I mean, this is an example from a German development corporation, right? You have expert one, which is a short-term international expert, expert two, short-term international expert, expert three. Whoops. No. So let's go there again and see. So I mean, it depends on the request for proposal, right? So this is expert three, which is a national expert. So that's national consulting. This one are expert from the international consulting. So um, you have the daily fee rate. Yes, we do have daily fee rate. So they're paid in a daily fee rate, right? You have per diems and daily fee rates for international experts could be from $600 per day uh, to 700 to 800. In fact, I mean, we have mentors and bosses that I mean, $5,000 per day that have been earning $5,000 per day. But like we said, this comes with experience. Um, then you think about the daily fee for the national experts, maybe $300 per day, depending on the grade or the kind of experts that we're talking about. So you have per diems, you have accommodation allowance, then talk about flights and other travel expenses. I mean, this is an example of what you get in such um, kind of tender and you're supposed to submit a bid for, right? Um, so let's go back to the budget. So, I mean, this is just telling you what. So, I mean, in consulting, it's important to understand how do you become successful, right? I think number one is to actually understand that this takes time, a whole lot of time for you to actually establish yourself. So there are two kinds of people that is being requested to provide services in terms of evaluation is either you are an individual consultant or a firm consultant, right? So it can be a firm that they're requesting for or an individual. So, but I mean, for both, it takes time. There are international consultants. So in this space, for example, they've been around since 1959, 1949. And so, I mean, so they have that experience in the space, and that's why you see a whole lot of them in the developed countries. So, but technical expertise and experience is very, very key and important in evaluation. Um, also, yeah, national versus local partners. You need national partners. No, so international partners need national partners. So I actually took out local partners. Like I said, I do not like referring to them as local partners. So, um, international partners, international consultants, now need local consultant, national consultant firm to cooperate on evaluation projects. And I mean, this is now becoming a key criteria for being able to procure um, an evaluation service from multilateral or bilateral agencies. Um, so it's important. So engagement with decision makers is also important when there's a request for proposal. We've already discussed this in um, week 4, right? Um, Engagement with decision makers is very important. It is what, and that's why it's highlighted in blue. Actually, it's not only about writing responding to requests for proposal, but you need to engage with um, those that are decision makers in multilateral institutions, bilateral institutions. If you're a national consulting firm, engage with the international consulting firm. If you're an enumerator, or you're in this position, or this is, where you might be currently, engaged with this firm. It's very important, especially to show what you can do, how you are doing things, what you are on. So I mean, it's important to create that. So what we're saying in essence is to just create the relationship. Let each and everyone know what you're doing and where you are at a particular time. These are very key. It's not at the time of a request for proposal you now start looking for that partnership. So decision makers at every level. If you're here and you're seeking contract from here, it's important you understand and know the decision makers. If it's here seeking here, you need to understand who the decision makers are and have created relationship with them. And knowledge and insight is very important on the strategies that these decision makers are currently working on. And what does that mean? For example, the World Bank strategy on poverty eradication in a country, you as an international consulting firm or a national consulting firm, because uh, you might be trying to get contract here, you need to understand and know what is actually happening in terms of that strategy in your own country. Like, what are the strategies? So I mean, which is why we advise that you read strategy documents of all these international and bilateral agencies or institutions. It's very, very important and key. And so so you do not wait till the time of RFP. So it's important to have that knowledge and insight into their programs, their projects in your country. Also, I mean, you need to have resources in terms of finance, human resources, and financial resources. In terms of financial resources, that's why you see mostly that yes, there are international consulting firms that are, yeah, I mean, they are the first level of securing contract from these people, right? Because they have the funding, especially in the type of corporation where it is based on reimbursements. So not on a fixed price, not on a lump sum of money that has been paid head on. So these people have that financial resources, this consulting firm, they have the huge finance to go ahead and start the program or the project or the evaluation, um, and they will be reimbursed by the multilateral institution. So that happens actually. Um, so, which in essence means that yes, I mean you need to think about this. Then, also in terms of people that work with you, right? It's very important. Then you have a well-crafted compliant proposal um, to submit. Very, very important and key. Like we said, this is not a proposal writing, but what we have also done is also provide a document that outlines, yes, how you need to prepare your uh, expression of interest and also technical proposals. This is a useful document also. It's in the classroom and you can make use of it. It has every process. When they're asking for letter of interest, what you can provide, a two-page letter, then express yourself, introduce your firm, expression of interests, what is supposed to be there, a cover letter, convey your interest on the project, state why you should be shortlisted, state your intent to incorporate local experts. So, I mean, national consulting firm now. So, this is where it comes in. Has to be shortlisted, then qualification statements, description of your firm, and biography of few key staff that are important for that project, that are technically inclined and have expertise in the evaluation. Very, very important. Then think about project experience. So, what are your experiences in that field? Um, and I think one key thing that is important is, yes, I mean, here we gave you criteria for you to be just shortlisted for consult. I mean, this is what commissioners look at. So the qualification and background of the firm, very, very important. The qualification of the staff or team that you've presented, right, and their backgrounds, very, very important. Experience in working in similar assignments. So, I mean, for example, it's an evaluation on that is focused on conflict resolution, right? So, does your consulting firm, has it been able to do that in the past before? The previous experience in the country, have you worked in Nigeria before, or have you worked in that state before? It's a key thing commissioners look at. Also, language capabilities of the staff you have presented. So, if it's in uh, Togo, for instance, do you have staff that speak French? Then, whether local consultants will be used. So in Togo, will it be local consultants or they are international consultants? So, I mean, these are all things that are being looked at. Request for proposals also. I mean, if you've been, so this shows how to write a request for proposals for commissioners as well. Then your technical and financial proposal. You know, if your expression of interest go through, they will you will be invited to now submit a formal technical and financial proposal, right? So we've bullet point things that are needed. So, I mean, it's not every RFP that you go through that you want to submit for, right? Or not every expression of a call for request for proposal that you submit for. If you do not meet up with the requirements, it's better you focus your time on something else. You do not have the resources, focus on something else. Very, very important. You analyze it and understand, is it something you want to do? Then budget is very important. You need to know what the budget is, and this you do. Remember, we said you need to engage with the commissioners, which is the first thing, the most important thing. Um, these are informations you should know during engagement or find out. Definitely, you can't ask that during when you're submitting financial proposals. So, do not request an extension. Actually, then you recruit things that are perfect for you. Sign proposal, and I mean all this. And we've said this actually before that your methodology is what they're looking for in your work plan. And yes, I mean perhaps that will be a useful document for you. We're still going to talk more about that. So this is really important. Yes, we've seen. So how do you win confidence? Right? It's very, very important. Also, in the classroom, what we've done is provide. So, so we have an evaluation procurement dashboard which we normally use, which has the procurement side. So we have a general procurement site where you can see tenders for evaluations. This is general website and multilateral institutions, bilateral institutions, procurement portals where you can get information on evaluation, and also the sites of international development consulting firms that you can partner with. Most of these sites have where you can drop your CVs if you're looking to be an independent consultant. Yes, a whole lot of them request for your CVs. It's there you can submit, so they can contact you when they have a project or program. So I mean, this will be useful also for you. As a consultant, these are things you pay for or you make sure staff are focusing on, so that when expression of interest comes in, you are right there on time as well. So, but in so establishing your identity is very important, and relationship at early stage. And I mean this is all before any request for proposal happens. So let's key stakeholders know what your organization does in a continuous manner. Um, for example, some might just be providing checklists, publishing documents, and making sure these partners know that this is what you're doing and all that. So those are very important. Having meetings to show what you do with those partners, they're very important if they're bilateral agencies in your country. I mean, a long list of these bilateral institutions. Yeah, I mean, this is an abridged one. They are in your country. Take time to visit or request meetings with them, and yes, I mean, you can even tell them to add you to their mailing list. I mean, they always have contracts and all that they put out, especially, I mean, when it comes to evaluation, so they know that you are in country and they can reach out to you. Very, very key and important um, to establish these relationships in meetings, could be also in conferences, could be in unofficial meetings, could be in terms of you providing your services, making sure they know what you're doing. Very, very important. We call it pre-pipeline. Then you now get to the identification stage, like how do you know when RFPs, requests for proposals, are out? If you had done this, they will be the ones sending you. Yeah, most of those bilateral institutions have a database, so they send it as an email to you, that, oh, we have this request for an evaluation in this state, in this community, submit your bid. Otherwise, this list we have provided actually has a tender website, so I mean you could focus on checking this tender website maybe every day, or you might want to subscribe for email alerts, so the email that you're being alerted, or you check each of these multilateral institutions have a procurement website. You can also go there and check for services, or the bilateral institutions as well. We have their procurement URL. You can click on it and check for their services as well. So, I mean, that's a way for you to be ahead of things, right? As such, and understand when a request for your service is needed. Once you are able to get the request for proposal, please review the proposal very well. Not all proposals are meant for you. The request, not all of it is meant for, not all service is meant for you. If you do not have the resources, and you're not thinking of partnering with other institutions, then you can let it go. But review it very well. Make sure, yes, informations are provided. Um, it is at this stage I like to use, and we've provided two checklists for you. Very, very important checklist that you could take a look at, just to know what is in the RFP. If some things are missing, I can tell you that commissioners actually miss out some things, and you can use that to ask questions like timeline for budgets, what type of contract will it be, what will be the payment plan, and all that. They might miss out that on RFPs, and you might need to ask. So this checklist might be a very good guide for you. So we have a checklist. It's called a contract checklist, but you can use it also for the RFP. I think there's also a budget. Yeah. So this is also for budgets as well. Something you need to look at in terms of yeah. So like, what's the funding source? What will be the period of funding? What type of agreement are you going into? Is it a grant? Is it a contract? Is it a cooperative agreement? Um, will they be paying for personnel costs? How much will it be? The local, the national consultants. Um, how much is there a cap for the national consultants? Will personnel costs be determined on basis of days of effort, percentage of time? I mean, you need to think about this and use it to ask questions. I always do that a lot, and it's very, very important. It's an important part. With an RFP, there's an opening, there's a gap for you to ask questions. So you can use that time to ask some of those important questions as well. Then you get into preparing the proposal, right? We've showed us a document that has that, so that might be useful for you. So this is now the time for you to think about your pool. Who do you have in your organization or in your consulting firm who are experts that can work? So it's time to reach out to them to provide their CVs. So I mean, I mean, your CVs um, must be in tandem with the type of CVs that is required, the format of CV. So there's the European CV format as well. So, and there's the American own. So you need to think about that from your team of experts to provide that. Most consultants actually have their CVs in 3 formats or 2 formats. So um, reach out to them for their availability. Would they be available for A to B, and also be able to share the request for proposal with them, or the terms of reference, so that they can see the time you're talking about and what needs to be done. Um, Normally, I would advise you also, ask, do they have any question about the RFP, so that you can also add that to the question you will be asking the commissioner. So I mean, write the proposal, and then most importantly, review the proposal you have written. Very, very important. You can give it to 3, 4 people. You can give it back to even the experts themselves, those that are part of the key team member, to take a look at. Um, Once they sign off it, then please submit the proposal on time. On time, very, very important. Do not submit your proposals late. Very, very important thing to do. So, I mean, you've won the contract. That is not when it ends. Even if you've won the contract, it's important to look at the contract. And I mean, that's why the two documents, the document that I've showed you, I mean, the contract checklist, very, very important. Uh, yeah, so this is also useful at this time also to use in reviewing the contracts that have been sent. So you can go back and forth at this time, even with the commissioner. Make sure everything is fine between both parties, and then you can then sign the contract. In summary, um, to be a good consulting firm or be an individual consultant, yes, it's important to learn what procurement method will be used. And I mean, this is always done at the engagement act, and that's why it's very, very key to engage um, all the stakeholders, the multilateral institutions, the bilateral institutions, the foundations, even before a request for proposal. So when you have somebody um, in-house who already knows you, I mean, you can always have the discussion and conversation. You've created that trust. They've already known you, the work that you do, and so also know what criteria will be used to evaluate bids. Most RFPs will definitely um, tell you this. Um, Also, they will call for conferences or openings or bids. Please attend. Will be a good way also to let them know your organization, right? Um, some RFPs have specification, for example, CVs of team members. It must let it comply to those specifications. It's very, very important. If some things are not clear enough, ask questions for clarification. Um, Also, it's important for you. You should know the budget, and one way to do that is also to research other documents, project documents by that organization that is commissioning the evaluation. I do this a whole lot, like trying to search project documents and all that, which might actually have cost information. This allows you to know how much can or might be needed, especially if it's a new client. If the multilateral or bilateral agency is new, then um, you might need to do this. Yes, I mean, locate partners. Partners might be in terms of a national consultant looking for enumerators, which might be from NGOs, or also international consultant looking for national partners as well. Then, I mean, prepare a well-written package proposal and submit it on time. That's very, very key and important. And so, I mean, I think this has been useful. I mean, if you have comments, if you have suggestions, please feel free to put them in the classroom. We have provided so many resources in the classroom for this unit. It's one of the most interesting units, especially in our in-house trainings, um, where people are thinking about becoming an independent consultant and all. Yes, I mean, um, perhaps I might not have been able to say, touch on some things that might be needed. Um, but I think it's just important if you're thinking of consulting, think of competency in the field, and being competent means that yes, you need to sacrifice a whole lot of time starting as an enumerator first, having that experience, 1 year, 2 years collecting data, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, running evaluation, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, eight. And I mean, using that time also to build your competency in terms of being able to attend capacity buildings from some of these key capacity development institutions, especially the international one. I mean, Cloneshouse Nigeria does the national one and regional one. So, I mean, it's important you also think about attending some of these lectures or trainings as well. It's a key, it's very key. And also thinking about having master's degree or a PhD in this profession. Uh, I mean, inside here, we've put together institutions that you can go and study. It's very, very important and key. And most importantly, is that yes, I mean, you need that years of experience. Very, very key and important um, for you to be. We learn actually on the job as we conduct evaluation all around the region, the world, in states. Very, very key and important. And yes, I mean, it's important to engage with the key stakeholders um, that are maybe commissioners, maybe other international consultants. Very important. Um, then then think about writing your RFPs and all, and writing a good proposal. Then put together a good, great team that are quite experienced. Very important as well. So on that note, I mean, we will wrap up this unit, which is the last unit of this online result-based monitoring and evaluation course. Contracting for. So I mean, these are references that are useful, and I mean, you should actually visit this site. It has lots of checklists in it that will be useful for you in this very profession. So on that note, I would want to say thank you guys for taking your time to be in this course. If you stumbled on this video, if you want to join, yes, I mean, this is the link to register to join the course. You need group bookings. You can email training at cloneshouse.com or put a phone call through to them. They're just a call away. I hope this course has been so useful for you. Do not forget to complete our the pre-evaluation of this online course so that we can improve. We can be able to improve on the courses that we have developed for this online course. Again, let me say thank you so much for your time. It's been 5 weeks of a whole lot of great discussions and insights and also learnings for me as well. Um, and I hope we can actually, yes, I mean, um, do more and also promote the profession of evaluation um, as well, so that we can make our community, our society a better place for everyone to live. Thank you, and I'll say bye for now.